Good evening everybody and welcome to the grand finale of the F1 2017 Esports Championship. Today we are at the Suzuka International Circuit in Japan. You can see the championship standings currently on screen at the moment. Alberto currently leads by 4 points from Alex in second, but the main thing to focus on today is the battle for third place, the final spot in the semi-finals in London between Big C, F1 Italian Magic, Nico Fiore and Itaven. That is going to get very, very fiery. I'm Ali Kidd, and joining me to take you through all of this evening's proceedings is HRLKV.
It is a pleasure to be back for the final round of this Esports Championship. It is the Suzuka International Circuit for the Japanese Grand Prix. A little stats about this track. It is 5.8 kilometers long or 3.6 miles. It has 18 corners, and the fastest lap record holder is a 1:31.5 by Kimi Räikkönen in the McLaren in 2005. But like Ali K mentioned, it's going to be a very, very close race for the top three. Obviously, Alberto and Alex both have podiums in both races. However, Big C and Itaven have split podiums, meaning Big C has a win in the first round and Itaven has third place in the second round. But it's very, very close, ranging from third place all the way down to, I believe, 10th place. They still have a good contention, at least trying to get into the top three. So Big C has a lot on his plate today for this final esports race.
It is a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders. He described it earlier as the biggest race of his career, which has been going on for a very long time. So I think that really does put it into perspective. We are about ready to go racing here in Japan. We're about to go into qualifying here. Something to note actually is that we've had a lot of rain in the previous two races that we've seen this week around this track on Xbox and PC. So I wouldn't be surprised, Alan, if we saw a bit more rain today.
Yes, another statistic I found is obviously the first race, China, every single race we had rain. In Bahrain, every single race was dry. In the past two races we've had here at Suzuka, it is all rain. So today I'm expecting rain. It's a nice and easy prediction to know. And I definitely expect some, obviously, interchanging conditions with the weather today.
And if you remember back to the drama we had in China, the rain really did spice everything up. Hopefully we'll have drama of a similar kind today. If you remember back to that race in China 3 weeks ago now, that was, Big C came out of nowhere with a stunning victory, and he needs something similar of that ilk to hold off F1 Italian Magic, Nico Fiore and Itaven today. It would be quite a feat for him to qualify for the semi-finals of this F1 2017 Esports Championship. Do not forget, the semi-finals are on the 10th of October, and I'm sure they will be live streamed, and the links will be available at the time. But that is something very much to look forward to.
Yes, as we are starting up this qualifying session, we will note, first of all, we didn't say this much last Grand Prix, but we will say it this time just to start it off. If you have anything to tweet about or any opinions, use a hashtag F1 Esports on Twitter. Greatly appreciated. We'd love hearing your reactions, but as we enter qualifying, we are ready for the final ever qualifying of the 2017 Esports Championship qualifying, or the qualifiers here, presented by AOR Fizzy. Again, a fantastic job. Well done to everyone advancing in the PC and Xbox side. Again, congratulations to them. Now we just have one final race to determine who's advancing, the three finalists to go to London on the PS4 side.
There is, as we mentioned, plenty to fight for, and as we mentioned in the first race, the difference about PS4 from the other platforms is that we have more than just AOR racing here. We have F1 Italian, we have Race Stars, and we have the guys from AOR as well, so the competition is incredibly intense. The F1 Italians have been seen as probably the top on PS4 for a very, very long time now, and they have shown a number of times already in this series what they are capable of. But the big question here is, can Magic nab that third spot off Big C? Pace-wise, you would say yes, but with Big C on the track, anything could happen.
Yes, definitely. As we do look towards the beginning of qualifying, I see a couple drivers going out already. There's a Resi going out very early, and we keep mentioning this every qualifying. We always say this, everybody goes out to set, put laps in first. Obviously, like we said, we're in Japan, there's a good chance that it could rain. We don't know if it'll rain in the race or qualifying, but everyone likes to go out in the beginning, knowing we have 12, 13 minutes left, or in the beginning of qualifying. People like to set laps as banker laps, and then towards the end they'll go for obviously the fastest lap. So within that last minute, you usually see a couple people, just topping the leaderboards at the time. But I'm going through several drivers, and a lot of people have pressure on their plates. Not only Big C, but also drivers who are behind on points. It's like F1 Italian Magic, Nico Fiore, Itaven, H-Racing Green, and Ali D, who has tied H-Racing Green, both with 12 points respectively. But really, if I were Magic, not only that, it's sort of a coincidence that the guy you're trying to beat is your teammate, who also has won the first race of this championship and an average finish for Magic of 4.5 compared to Big C's. I actually said I think it's a 4.5 because he got first and ninth. I'm not good at math, but again, obviously the last week, ninth place for Big C, not the result he wanted, but he still is in that top 3 position. So really drivers like Big C, Magic, Nico, and IDVen will be on that cut line. And again, like we said, a lot of pressure on their plates. They need to prevail today.
They really, really do. A lot of pressure on a lot of people today. Someone that we haven't really mentioned a lot throughout this series so far is Aresi. He had a bit of a nightmare in Bahrain, a bit of a nightmare in China as well. He finds himself well down the championship standings. But on the time trial leaderboards here, he is unbelievably fast. He's well into the low 27, so I would not be surprised at all to see him very near the front today. Let's go on. Oh, he's really messed up turn 1, actually. That is not a good line through there at all. Let's stay on board with him through this first sector. This is an incredible sequence of corners. Personally, one of my favourites on the entire F1 calendar. When you get the flow right through here, it is really quite something. This track in general is just incredibly challenging, and I think you would probably agree with that, Alan.
Yes, definitely. As we do head up around to the second sector, my favorite part of this circuit actually isn't the S's, believe it or not. It's turns 8 and 9 when you head into the Degner curve and then turn 9 off the exit. I love the part how they banked it in the new game. It's fantastic. But you head up into turn 10 and 11, the hairpin. Now, we saw a lot of drivers doing this yesterday. It was pouring rain yesterday, and I haven't even noticed a single driver hitting these rumble strips. Again, with the new game, obviously, it's more tricky to lose the back end of the car, or it's more easy to lose the back end of the car. It's more tricky to keep it in line. So let's say if it starts to rain here, obviously you want to keep off the rumble strips in the corner, and you could lose the car massively. As if you're still with Aresi, he did run it wider. It's because it's dry conditions. But if he did that when it was pouring rain, the chances of you spinning out are very likely. But as we head into 130R, another one of my favorite corners here at this circuit, a very legendary circuit, so I'm really happy to finish out this championship here. He goes into the chicane for the final time. Obviously, for my screen, Aresi does have the top time, but he's going to head in. I'm not sure if he set a lap yet or not, but obviously, I think he put in some wear on his tires. He wants to go and either refuel or put on new tires. Obviously, you mentioned in the beginning of the lap that he didn't really have the best start in Sector 1, so he could be just going back and put on a new, fresh set of tires.
He could indeed, as Ollie D sets the fastest lap of the session so far with a 28.5. I imagine pole is going to be somewhere in the 27s. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to see the pole time, but 27s I think is a fairly safe bet as we're on board with Alberto into turn 1, the current championship leader after a stunning race victory last time out in Bahrain. Through the S section, it's looked like a very tidy turn 1 so far, and through the rest of sector 1, again, it is looking pretty nice from the Mercedes driver. His victory in Bahrain was really quite something, made an awesome diving maneuver on F1 Italian Magic, which pretty much won him the race. Those two were following each other around for a large portion of that race, and it was Alberto's move that in the end proved decisive. And this lap so far has looked really pretty good as he comes into the hairpin. What is it going to be like here? Shifting down into second gear, taking a pretty nice late apex on the power as well. It's all looked really very tidy from this Mercedes. Let's go on board into Spoon. How is he going to take this corner? On this game, it is properly difficult to do that, as IDVen it's a 27.6, which is a really impressive lap time for so early on in a qualifying session, and Alberto is looking really good at this stage into 130R. How is he going to manage this? The final chicane, again, there's plenty to go wrong there. The braking zone is pretty tricky. It's pretty easy to cut as well. The game is fairly lenient with the track limits there, so let's see how Alberto does. He's got a bit of traffic in front of him. Has he into the braking zone? That looks very nice on the curbs on the inside and the outside. Up to the line. What is it going to be for Alberto? DRS as well. Where is it going to be? It is not fastest yet, which is a little bit of a surprise there.
Yeah, the lap looked absolutely flawless, and we keep on mentioning these drivers are the best at this game, and that lap looked flawless. Everybody thought he had pull, but he only got 4th place on my screen, and that just shows how many other drivers are very competitive at this circuit. So we're already halfway through this qualifying. We keep mentioning this every week. It flies by knowing that we're commentating this race. It's superb that we're doing it. It's the very last race for the Esports Championship, if anyone is tuning in. And another fact that I'd like to point out, this Suzuka International Circuit is the only the 8-figure circuit on the calendar, actually, because the last 2 races we did were Shanghai and Sakir. Today we're in Suzuka, and if you're on board with Aresi, he's going down the straight heading into 130R. Eventually he'll go over the straight that leads into the hairpin, so right now he's on the tunnel, or on the bridge, so again, it's a very, very creative and unique circuit. I love racing here, and every time we come here, I usually get the jitters because this track is just absolutely magnificent as we have 5 minutes left of this qualifying session.
It is. The track really is a work of art as Aresi crosses the line to, I believe, start his flying lap. He messed up his early lap. Oh, Big C is retired. Oh, what has gone on there? Marco is retired as well. Aresi goes for a bit of a slide through turn 1. And he's run very wide as well. That could potentially be an invalidation. He's carried on though. He seems to still be pushing, so I imagine he is still on a valid lap for now. The camera looks so spectacular through sector 1 here, and up through this corner. That's a really difficult traction zone. Oh, he's on the curb as well. A big kick of oversteer. That was nearly very nasty. And then into Degner 1. How is he going to take that one? Pretty nicely. That is a really spectacular camera angle, seeing the car flying through there. And again, Aresi is really loose on the traction into the hairpin. Is he still pushing on the lap? He's locked up on the inside front. I believe he is. Short shifting up into third, and this is looking pretty tidy so far from Aresi.
Yes, as I'm on board Aresi, he's heading down the straight in sector number 2, heading to sector number 3. Now, this is a track not many people can either nail it, as he goes to the left-hander, running wide, then going back to the left. Another left-hander heads down the straight now, and this probably isn't. Is it? I'm not sure if this is a DRS straight. I don't think. Is it a DRS straight? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not really keen with this track down the straights, but headed down into 130. The left-hander, again, one of my favorite corners in Formula 1. You're going to head down into the final few bits of this circuit as you head down into the chicane, hopping over the 2 curbs, heading down the hill again. Aresi's going to have another chance at this pull, but he's going to dive it down into the pits again. So the second time I'm on board with the driver, he heads down into the pits, so not exactly sure what his plan is with just 3.5 minutes remaining, but he does have a good time up on the board, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Still a little bit of an odd strategy to come into the pits now. I mean, he is just going to have time to come back out at the end of the session, but Aresi's been in and out of the pits a lot in this session, so I don't know whether he's going to have enough tyres to go for another run at the end, or enough time even, because the mechanics tend to be fairly slow, so it might be a bit of a rush for Aresi to get out again before the end of this session, as we're on board with Nico Fiore, who I believe is already qualified through the Suzuka event, so I think he has an awful lot of pace here, but still, it's all to play for. He could potentially get top 3 here as well. Jemzoh's just coming out of the pits in the Ferrari. We saw him right at the front in China early on, but then just dropped back. And again, in Bahrain, just didn't seem to click for him there. So I wonder if this can be the week where Jemzoh really pulls something out of the bag. We've seen his Ferrari teammate Alex incredibly impressive so far. 2 second place finishes. It's going to be interesting to see whether Alex can actually go one better this time and potentially take the victory, just to 100% consolidate his place in London.
Yes, there are a lot of drivers I feel bad for. And one of them that we were talking about was Nico. I felt like he was either set up for a first or second place finish, but because of the rain that came out, it just ruined the chances of him winning. And then obviously, in the second race, where I believe it was him dive bombing into the first corner, just costed himself and two other drivers a chance of winning that race. As Nico goes across the line for third fastest with 2 minutes remaining. Nico actually, third place, so he definitely has a good time up on the board, but with 2 minutes remaining, a lot of times can actually outdo his lap. He's on his third actual lap. Some quite surprised drivers are actually going to keep on going out on the track, doing multiple laps on those tires, knowing that if that's the best lap he's going to do on those tires, and he's setting multiple laps, that's going to cost him in the race, because that wire will get processed to the beginning of the race, and that's a little disadvantage that some drivers carry through. What I usually like to do is go out for 2 banker laps, get used to the track, then go out for one final run, one single lap. And if I mess that up, I would just ultimately slow down the car, make sure to get the least amount of wear on these tires, because it can impact you on the race. If anyone was new to the game or didn't know that, obviously the qualifying wear on the tires that you put on can definitely affect you in the race. But with 1.5 minutes remaining, I do feel like the pole position will slingshot between a couple drivers. We keep mentioning this because it usually does happen between every Grand Prix. But the question is, I want to see if the pole sitter can maintain the time he has within these last few minutes of qualifying.
Yeah, we've mentioned a number of times, track evolution is a big feature in this game. I'm on board with Itaveni. He had a car off in the gravel in his eyesight, which is it's pretty distracting when you're coming through a sector as technical as Sector 1 here at Japan. So that will not have helped him one bit as he comes through Spoon, though I think it's looked fairly tidy so far from Itaven in that Haas. He still has a chance to qualify for the semi-finals in London. He's currently sat, I believe it is 12 points behind Big C. So if he has a good result today, if he wins the race essentially, he has a big chance of making the semi-finals. He's got to have a bit of luck on his side and hope the others make mistakes essentially. But what is it going to be for Itaven up to the line? 30 seconds remaining in this qualifying session. Itaven on the DRS. It is not pole position, I believe, which is a bit of a surprise. What is it going to be for Alex? He's a big drift out of turn 1 through sector 1. What is it going to be for Alex? As H Racing, I do not think that is actually the fastest lap of this session so far, but on board with the Ferrari of Alex through sector 1 is looking fairly nice so far. That traction zone is worked pretty much to perfection there. And then through Degna 1, how is Alex going to cope with this corner? Are we going to see a lift? We are. A little lift then into Degna 2. No lockups into 4th gear. Running a little bit wide. That's a big slide. The checkered flag is now out in this qualifying session. But into the hairpin for Alex from 6th down to 3rd. Or is it going to be 2nd? No, it's still in 3rd. Takes a really nice late apex and pretty nice traction as well. And this is looking a very, very neat lap from Alex so far.
Yes, as we head into the second round of the third final sector of this circuit, obviously he's on his 3rd lap with 2.5 minutes remaining. Obviously, we just saw the qualifying did just end, but they do give drivers around 2 minutes to end. But as we head down the straight now, he is about to approach the bridge in 130R. Again, the final sector, one of the most important ones, as F1 Italian Magic goes with the fastest lap of 128.1. So again, multiple drivers slingshotting through the final minutes of qualifying. Now we're going to go on board with Alex heading into the final sector. It is a chicane as he needs a perfect exit. He does get it. He lost it back in a little bit, but headed downhill. He'll open up DRS right against the right side, across the line. Not going to do it, but Alex comes across the line, not in pole position. A little shocking because it looked like he was on a good lap, but I was really looking at that final corner. He lost the back end. He lost a lot of time there, so that really could have costed him.
It really could have done as we're on board with Aresti again, so he did make it out for another lap in this session. What is it going to be from Aresti? I believe he's currently sat in P2 in this session, up to the line for the Toro Rosso. It is the fastest lap, is it? It is a 27.8 for Aresti in the Toro Rosso, and I believe if the timings are correct, then that is going to be pole position for Aresti as H Racing Green pulls into the pits. Alberto is in the pits as well, and I believe everybody else is also. So we're just waiting for a number of drivers to retire, and that is the end of the final qualifying session of this F1 2017 Esports Championship, and again, it did not disappoint.
Yes, definitely, as Jay Thorne has retired, many other drivers retiring with 1 minute left just to talk about the qualifying session. And by the way, people, if you have not seen the chat, the telemetry is now live. If you were watching yesterday's esports race, we had telemetry for the track data, everything. So obviously it's open, it's in the chat. If you find the link by Dan Hawkins, he'll present it to you. But the telemetry is open as we have less than a minute remaining. This qualifying session was actually flew by the quickest out of all 3 races we've done. But it looks like we had a couple drivers slingshot from the pole. But I'm looking at the statistics now. It is Aresti on the top with a 127.8. On the game, it says he's in 2nd, but he is the only driver to dip in the 127s, I believe, as everyone else is in the 128 and 129s. And Jemzoh actually has a 205. I'm not sure if he actually got in a competitive lap or not. But it's really shocking to see some drivers actually did not get in laps. On my screen, I see Alberto, Ali D, and ID Ven did not actually get laps in. So that may cost him. Obviously, Alberto is on the points lead by 4 points over Alex. And also, Ali D has 12 points. I think he's either 8th or 9th in points. He's 8th in points with a 6th and 8th place finish. So this is really going to cost him if he does not have a time in there. As we come to the end of the qualifying session, that is it. ID Ven is on pole with a 127.6. My bad. The telemetry did not actually show that. But a fast lap by ID Ven by 1/10 of a second over Aresti to take today's pole position.
It is a stunning lap from Itaven, and he's put himself with a really good opportunity of taking that 3rd position in the standings from Big C, who is down in 13th place. He has really got a job on his hands to keep his position from Nico, Itaven, and F1 Italian Magic, who are all in the top 4 here. That is not what Big C will have wanted to see. He described it as the biggest race of his career so far, and 13th is not the place that you want to be starting from. So a bit of a mountain to climb for Big C before the race has even begun. Now, the big question is, are we going to see any rain?
That is a very good question. I mean, if we have any drivers that retire in the race, then there's rain. You jinxed it. We have rain for today's Japanese Grand Prix at the Suzuka International Circuit. obviously, once you brought up the question, I think the people controlling this game, or the Rain, just said, might as well throw Rain on the circuit, might as well have a fantastic start. And that is what we're going to have as the time ticks down from 30 seconds. Rain is on the circuit, so we will see fantastic racing in the beginning. Obviously, this race will put on fantastic racing all around, but obviously, with Rain in the start of this Grand Prix, it is going to be very, very intense for the front runners, basically anyone who's on the circuit, because you have cars in front of you, you have cars behind you. They can get good starts or bad starts, or they can just collide with you in the beginning. And obviously with the Rain on the circuit, that's not going to help your conditions. So as we come to the 5 red lights,
and we are ready to go racing in Suzuka. It is 5 red lights for the Japanese Grand Prix, and it is lights out, and away we go. We have intermediate conditions here in Japan. It's a decent start from Itaven off the line. That Toro Rosso is sideways, and Itaven is going to be clear into turn 1 as he is arrested. He has dropped back a little way in second place. Oh, and Nico is off the track. He is way off the track. He's being passed by a load of cars there. Magic is now up into 3rd place. JustLoOller is up into 5th. Oh my days. There are so many cars going into the S's together. JustLoOller is down into 6th. birillodog is up into 5th. Nico has somehow managed to maintain P4 in all of that. Let's go on board with Alex down in P7. It's getting very, very hectic in the opening stages here. Alberto in
there's
P8.
a spin behind. There's a spin behind with Ali D in the Force India.
And Ollie has more bad luck in this series. It's just nothing will go right for Ollie. We didn't actually catch it last time out in Bahrain, but he had a huge lag crash early on in the race, and that really cost him a lot of time. And it looks like, again, Alan, Ollie cannot get any luck in this series.
I mean, I wouldn't say luck. I mean, he is lucky that he is one of the few drivers to actually get point-paying positions in every Grand Prix. I mean, obviously I believe the top 5 have that, and then ID Ven has a 12th and 3rd place finish. But then other than that, you have Ali D and J Thorne, who also have finished in their points in both races. So, I mean, he's a consistent driver. I do feel like we could have a safety car today if anyone else retires, or if anyone else does retire in this Grand Prix. But right now, ID Ven got a fantastic start after the wheel spin from Aresi, who lined up alongside of him in second, but it's going to be a battle for the second position. If Magic is going to look to the inside, he's going to look to the inside, but backs off from it. However, Aresi does run wide, and they'll be wheel-to-wheel as the Red Bulls offer 4th place behind, but Aresi's going to hold the middle lane and maintain 2nd place. So Aresi was under a lot of pressure there, but was able to hang on for the 2nd position.
Very nice defending from Aresi at the track where he actually won the Season 13 Championship back on F1 2016. This is the race where he managed to clinch his first F1 driver's title, and he's just managing to maintain his position ahead of Magic, having had a shocking start off the line. He had so much wheel spin there. I don't know how he managed to keep it in a straight line in the end, but he is just ahead of F1 Italian Magic, who's up into P3. Let's check on the position of Big C. He is crucial in this battle for the top 3. He's not even in the point. He is down in P12, so as it stands, Big C is not going to be getting the top 3 in this series. Just a reminder to all of you that the top 3 will be going to the semi-finals in London, which is a huge prize for any F1 racer. And let's go back on board with the guys at the front. And Aresi dropped down into P4. What has happened there? I switched away for a split second. He's been passed by Nico and by Magic, so I assume Aresi must have made some kind of mistake there.
It must have been a mistake, obviously. He was just in second a minute ago. I mean, I see a lot of passing going on, and obviously with the rain, not really many opportunities present itself to obviously create overtakes. But I'm quite surprised Aresi was able to follow back, but now he's under the pressure from B-Dog for 4th place on lap number 2. And actually, it looks like Nico runs wide in this next corner. This will give the advantage back to Aresi for 3rd position, but I can see a lot of wheel spin from Aresi. He runs very wide, and this will give the opportunity for the Sauber driver to try and pass him down the straight, but he backs off as Aresi put on a blocking maneuver on lap number 2. Though it's only lap 2, and it's raining on the circuit. So if I were them, I wouldn't even try on passing in 130R. Just try passing in tight corners. But I'm really surprised no one has retired yet. I don't want to jinx anyone, but like we mentioned before, the 2nd place driver is Magic as fastest lap for ID Ven. Now Magic fastest lap will 1:44.6, but like we were mentioning, Big C is out of the points, and his teammate is only 5 points behind him, and with Magic running in the position, he'll get by, I believe, Big C. But he also has to come into account, obviously, there's Nico and ID Ven, and ID Ven is also leading, so this championship could be very tight for the 3rd position, as it looks like Alberto and Alex have a secure point stable with 40 and 36 respectively in the championship.
I was hesitant to interrupt you there as we had a battle for P4 into turn 1 with Aresi and birillodog. Birillo trying to look to the inside, but it's just so difficult to pass. In these conditions, without the DRS and the slipstream being toned down for this game, obviously, it is so difficult to find a way past, particularly into turn 1. And a lot of drivers as well around this track have a habit of running very rearward bias. It is the fastest way around in the dry, but it makes the car very unstable. So it'd be interesting to see whether anybody perhaps changed that for the wet weather conditions. I certainly would have done, me personally, as Alex is still holding P6 now. And this is forming a little bit of a train now with Alex, Alberto and Marco Ganu just at the back of this train as well. But Alex, I think, will be fairly content with P6, as I believe that is still enough for him to qualify.
Yes, and I'm quite surprised Alberto is running the 7th position. I mean, both races he finished 3rd in China and 1st in Bahrain. And he hung on to a fantastic victory last week. And by the way, if people forgot or did not watch last week's race, it was Alberto who ended up with the victory. 2nd was Alex, and 3rd was ID Van, who missed points in the 1st race. Now we head to the final race, and I'm really surprised Alberto's back in 7th. He's actually under pressure from Marco Ganu. And again, I'm really surprised because in the championship, Marco Ganu has a DNF in 12th place. So he has no points, but down the straight, Alberto has gained a lot of points, or a lot of time back in Alex. He's going to try and pass him down the straight for lap number 4. He's going to look to the inside in turn number 1. Question is if he can do it, but it looks like Alex rings it around the outside, losing the back end in 2 and headed up the hill and the S's. And I'm really surprised Alex was able to hang on to that one through the S curves. And it looks like Alberto's not done yet. He's looking back to the outside. There'll be single file headed up, but obviously a switchback is a move that you want to do through the S's if one runs wide. But headed up the hill, it looks like Alberto has a lot more momentum as Alberto runs wide, or lost the back end as he is trying to get by, but Alberto does a fantastic job blocking. So Alberto, the question is, when can he get by Alex? As it's really evident that Alberto has a faster car.
Definitely. Alberto seems to be flying in these conditions. That was monster stuff from Alex into turn 1, though. That was a huge... Oh! Alberto's locked up. He's hit the back of Alex. Alex has gone wide now because of that, and Alberto is going to get a run. I think he may have damaged his front wing, though. There was significant contact between the two of them. Alberto trying to go around the outside of Alex. There is not a lot of space there, mate. Is he going to make any move into Spoon? He's so close, but there's just nothing going. He goes for a little bit of a dart down the inside, but thankfully for all of us, he didn't go for that one, as that would definitely have ended in tears. But into 130R, are we going to see him shaping any sort of move? He's going to have to slipstream. No DRS obviously on this straight or in these conditions. So into 130R, can he do anything as JustLoOller has retired from the session into the chicane? Can he work anything on the brakes? He just gets a much worse run in the dirty air to 130R, and that is not enough for him to make a move into the chicane, as Jthorn has just retired from the session and his evening goes from bad to worse.
Yes, Jthorn was out of the points anyway. He had 9 points on the season standings for the Esports Championships. Obviously, retiring the car knowing that he will not go to London as Alberto dives onto the inside for it looks like P6 against Alex. He'll try and hang the inside, and it looks like this time he'll be able to still be side by side off to headed up the hill into the S curves. And he'll try and ring it around the outside, back to the inside, and it looks like Alberto will take 6th place finally. It took him 2 laps to get by, but Alberto does a fantastic job on getting by for the 6th position, and this gave the opportunity back to Marco Ganu to try and get by Alex for 7th place. As if I was Marco, I would have wanted to see them battle for as long as possible, but because Marco was in the dirty air and he was just waiting, that lured H Racing Green in a 9th position to close in on Marco, who was in 8th. So it looks like this 4-car pack or 4-car train is either starting to break up or within the top 7 of 7th, 8th, and 9th. They're starting to pull together, and I'm really surprised that Marco Ganu is actually right on the rear of Alex, who is known to be actually really fast, obviously in these, I wouldn't say conditions, but at this circuit. But again, I'm really surprised that certain drivers have retired from today, like Jthorn, even though Jthorn, we forgot to mention, Jthorn does have a headache, and he wasn't feeling in the best of mood to race today, so that is could have been one of the reasons why he retired. But it's lap number 5, and no opportunities or passes going on right now. Though I look up towards the front, and the gap is increasing between all drivers. Magic has pulled away from Nico, and actually ID Van is actually maintaining less than a 2-second gap, so kind of incredible to see that the Williams and the Haas driver are maintaining gaps within each other.
And that gap fell from 2.2 to 1.5 in the middle sector alone, and has come down another 0.2 in that final sector. Magic is definitely the fastest car on this track at the moment. He can smell the victory. He can smell that third place in the championship, and that could spell disaster for Big C, who I believe is still not in the points in this race. And Magic, his main rival, 5 points behind him in the championship at the moment, is currently flying towards the race lead. And look how much he's gained on Itaven on that Haas car. That gap surely is down to under a second now. Magic is just flying in these conditions. He is unbelievably fast. We saw him pick up pole position in Bahrain. Couldn't be any more different to a full wet race in Suzuka. The gap is down to 7/10 of a second. Magic is on fire. Are we going to see another fiery defensive display from Itaven? We saw him be a little bit feisty when he was wheel to wheel in Bahrain. I think he could do with another slice of that today if he's going to stay ahead of Magic.
Yes, he has gained a lot of time back, but I will give a little weather report. If you look on board with a Magic, I can see some blues in the sky, and you will have noticed it has stopped raining. So the question is, when will the changeover point be? As Itaven runs really wide, as Magic does as well, but off this corner, Magic has a lot of momentum carrying down the straight. Like we mentioned, the rain has stopped. So the question I have is, when will these drivers pit? Because this will be very crucial in the race result as Itaven goes defensive back down to the inside, to the outside, headed into 130R, now into the chicane, and it turns 17 and 18, headed down onto the main straight through the final chicane that we have at the circuit. And I'm looking on board with Magic. It looks like this is the strong point for Magic as he gains a lot of time against Itaven, but down the straight it looks like Itaven pulls away. So this is, I think we've already determined these drivers' strengths and weaknesses already by lap 7. That's sort of impressive to see, but Magic hanging on to, or Itaven hanging on to lead, but for how much longer?
That is the big question in this race, but currently it is an all F1 Italian duel for P1 in this Japanese Grand Prix. Let us know your thoughts on the race so far using the hashtag F1 Esports on Twitter. Let us know your predictions. Who is going to win this race here today? Who is going to get top 3 in the championship? Do we think Big C can rescue it from the depths of defeat? Can he get some points on the board and potentially take back his third place in the championship? We know he gained a lot of supporters after that unbelievable drive in China. He's going to need something similarly miraculous to claim another victory today as he's some way down the order, but Magic is so close to Itaven. Are we going to see a Kobayashi into the hairpin? We are not, as Itaven goes slightly defensive as well. That is going to compromise his run out of the hairpin, and look how close Magic is. He is so close to the back of that Haas car, but no way to make a move into Spoon. He's probably going to have to wait for either 130R or maybe the chicane after that. And you mentioned it stopped raining, but it doesn't appear to have got much drier in the last lap or so. I'm not entirely sure when we're going to see the crossover point between the dries and the intermediates. We saw what it did in China, and I think again today we could see some plenty of variable strategies going on.
I mean, I think the switchover point could be within the next 4 to 5 laps, so obviously these drivers will have a little bit of more time to battle each other on the circuit, but I'm really surprised at how close Magic is to Itaven. I'm surprised they haven't even made contact yet, as it looks like coming across the line for lap number 8 out of 27, 20 laps to go here at the Suzuka International Circuit. And again, like we said, Itaven pulls away down the straights, and the gap is now down to half a second as he was just behind the rear end, which was around 1 to 2 tenths off the pace of within the first 2. And I'm really surprised that Magic has not been able to get by Itaven yet, though both of them know each other very well. And as we head up through the S curves, it's just really, if they make contact, there's going to be a lot of things going on, obviously, for the pass for the race lead. Though we encourage very clean racing, and we really want to see a good pass for the lead. So obviously, we mentioned last week, to have a good pass, you really want to be, what's the word? And you need to be patient. As we were on board with Magic last week, he held on for 7 laps. He was so patient that he let by Alex, and Alex finished second. That's how patient he was. Now, after 5 laps, I would have went for the lead. Now, Magic, I think, took notes on that, and he learned his lesson. So I think he's going to go on full attack mode before the switchover point today.
Agreed, that would definitely be something to look out for in the coming laps. He runs so wide out of that corner. And a quick championship standings update for you. This is the live standings as it stands, with Itaven in first and Magic in second. They will both be tied on 40 points, meaning that their positions will be decided by the pre-season time trial times, where Magic was 0.029 seconds faster than Itaven. That is the kind of margin we are talking about here today. And as it stands, if the order stays like this, Alex would just need to stay in the top 8 to avoid dropping out of the top 3. So that is how it stands at the moment, and the duel between these two is absolutely crucial for the championship standings as we're on board with Magic. Can he do anything into turn 1 this time? The track is getting considerably drier as Itaven is going defensive into turn 1. Magic looking to the outside. Surely he can't go around the outside here in these conditions, and no, surprisingly enough, he cannot as Itaven maintains the lead for now.
Yes, again, I keep noting out, I'm really surprised that they're not trying to pass each other. More like Magic isn't getting by IDVen. He's all over his rear for the first 2 sectors, and down the straight he loses a time like it was on the front straight. But headed through the S-curves, Magic, he's scratching his head, trying to note out where he could pass IDVen, because really once he gets close to him is in the hairpin, and he can't get close enough. But if he does, maybe a lunging move to the inside, and that's a maybe, because something I keep noticing for Magic, he can't get close enough to actually, I wouldn't say dive bomb, but lunge it to the inside, if that's what Magic needs to do to advance to the finals in London. But right now, as we head into the hairpin, Magic isn't even close enough to put on a move. So he may try and get the little switch back here, but off the corner, looks like IDVen does have the momentum along the straight and the middle of sector number 2. So I'm really surprised, but it looks like actually down the straight, Magic gained some time, and it may be a battle for the lead finally on lap number 9. But headed through these 2 left-handers, it looks like Magic checked up because he got too close to IDVen, who ran a little bit wide. But headed down the straight, it actually looks like, seeing the spray from IDVen, it looks like Magic is reeling him in, pulling that fishing rod out, reeling him in. But as we head into 130R, IDVen will hold on. But again, he gets a fantastic exit off 130R. I don't know how he does that, because both of them are full throttle. But headed into the chicane, headed to lap number 10, we'll still stay with these guys as Magic cuts it a little bit. But it looks like they're both going to head down into the pits. So obviously it may be a change to slick tires as they both lock up into the pits. Hopefully nobody sped into the pits. But I see a Red Bull crew out as well, so it looks like Nico may be pitting. But down to the pits, it looks like Magic will go onto those soft tires. I'm not sure what it'll be for the race leader, IDVen. I think it's soft tires as well. As he actually, no, is it? I'm not actually exactly sure on my screen, but though he has medium tires, so he exits the pits, still in the race lead, as JustLoOller has left the session. It looks like the Renault has gotten by, but IDVen resumes on the track in second place on those medium tires compared to Magic on those soft tires.
That is going to be huge in this race. So Itaven has the lead, but is currently on the medium compound of tires. Magic is on the softs. That is a huge difference in compounds. With these new 2017 tyres, the difference between tyre compounds is just enormous. It is crazy how big the delta is between the two of them. So Magic is going to have so much more speed, particularly in these conditions with the limited grip. Magic is going to have so much more grip than Itaven in front of him, and it's going to be so important for him to actually make a move while his tyres are still fresh. I believe they will probably both be able to go to the end, as I think that's H Racing Green and the Renault, letting them both through into the hairpin. That's probably a wise thing to do. It is definitely time for the dry tyres now. Sorry about that. As Itaven still, for now, holds the lead of this race, but I think Magic is probably going to be finding a way fast fairly swiftly.
Really surprised that they didn't pit in a couple laps. I mean, yes, we just saw a lap car let him by, but you can still see it within the first 2 cars. There's still spray coming off the tires of these 2 drivers, and I'm really surprised at the pace with the intermediate guys. It's just falling off the pace. I see B-Dog back in 6th in the Sauber. He's on super softs. Can't do much about that. Aresi's in 5th in the Toro Rosso on soft tires as well. It looks like the majority of these drivers either on mediums or softs. I've only seen one driver on super softs. But other than that, I see Alex on softs. I see Alberto on softs. It looks like Alberto pulled off a good gap against Alex. So as we're 10, 11 laps through of this Grand Prix, it looks like the Renault will come into the pits.
Sorry to interrupt you, Alan, but there's a battle for the lead of the race as Magic's going for the inside into turn 1. That is so aggressive from Itaven with that defensive maneuver. He was so far to the inside, and there was just no room for Magic whatsoever. And again, he has to settle for second place at the moment in this race. With the DRS, that made so much difference. He had so much more straight line speed than he has done earlier on in this race, and for the first time, he was able to properly shape up a move. Unfortunately for him, it did not quite pay off as Itaven with some unbelievable defending. That was textbook stuff. Really aggressive, but I think hard but fair is the way to describe that one. And for now, it is still Itaven from Magic. And then Nico Fiore in 3rd place, almost 5 seconds behind the leaders now.
Sorry if I cut you off, but Discord just cut you off, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm really surprised that IDVen was able to hold on to the lead there. And again, I apologize for interrupting you, but the question is, since they are on two different tire compounds, mediums compared to the softs, as they both run wide, I'm really surprised that Magic has not gotten by. Again, this is stuff that he should have learned in Bahrain, when and how to get by a driver, but he's stuck behind the Haas driver, and it's going to be really, really hard to get by IDVen, knowing that this track is so narrow as they head to lap number 12 eventually, as we are in turns number 17 and 18, I believe, headed through the chicane. This is where it looks like Magic locked up, but gained a lot of time. He has a good exit. He lost the back end a little bit, headed down the straight. Could we see the same thing as we did last lap? Headed down the straight. DRS will be open. IDVen with the fastest lap, but still with DRS's Magic, not much difference as Nico goes for the fastest lap, a 139 flat, headed into turn number 1 and 2, headed uphill through the S-curves. IDVen will hold on to lead on those medium tires, as it looks like H Racing Green, a 138.9. I'm not sure if he's on those super soft tires or not. I think he's on the softs, so it looks like that's a tire to be on right now. Is Big C a fastest lap, a 138.9. As speaking about Big C, I wonder if he's actually in the points. We go back with him. He's gained a position into 11th, but that still does not give him any points. So it is crucial that he gets a top 10 as Shellay with the fastest lap, a 138.6. So again, a lot of drivers going for fastest laps, and actually looks like the medium tires are tire to be on, because H Racing Green was on the mediums, so is IDVen, and they're both really, really fast. And if we go back with Shellay, I believe, if I'm correct, don't quote me on it if I'm wrong, he is on those medium tires. So it looks like those medium tires are the tires to be on lap number 12 today.
And they will definitely be more durable come the end of the race. That is maybe when they will really come into their own. But something quick to mention at the moment, if it stays as it is with ITVen in the lead and Magic in second, Alex needs to get top 8 to make sure he qualifies for the semi-finals in London. He is currently 8th now and leading a bit of a trolley train with several cars behind him. So Alex is right on the bubble of qualifying for the semi-finals. He looks so good in the races so far, but he is really cutting it fine, sat in P8 at the moment. The gap to Alberto in front is almost 3 seconds, so Alex needs to get a bit of a move on if he wants to be safe in this series at the moment, as Magic is still a little bit too far back from ITVen to be able to shape a move into turn 1. It is currently, as you were, with ITVen on the medium tyres, still leading from Magic in second on the softs. You did make an interesting point about the mediums. I can't quite understand why they would be faster in these conditions. They will definitely be faster at the end of the race as the soft tyres start to go off. That is definitely something to bear in mind come the end of this 27-lap race.
Something I would like to point out, a fantastic comeback and recovery from Ali D, who set back in 9th place. He's actually chasing down Alex for the 8th position. So Alex did actually fall back to 9th place, and we're not even we're almost halfway through, because 13 plus 13 is 26, so it's out of 27, so we're almost halfway through this Grand Prix. Believe it or not, time flies so fast, it really does. And again, speaking about that, if you have any opinions or tweets about it, use a hashtag F1 Esports on Twitter if you have any opinions about this race, as we're around halfway through this Grand Prix. And again, like you mentioned, a fantastic recovery from Ali D spinning in Sector 1, turn number 1. Again, fantastic recovery. This is actually allowing Marco Ganu and Big C to catch up again. Big C needs some points if he wants to advance to the finals in London, though. I'm hoping Big C's not doubting himself, because there could be an incident and a collision, and something could happen, like a safety car. But again, I'm not going to jinx that, but as we look up towards the front, if you notice last lap, IDVen with the fastest lap, if you're on board with Magic, he's still right on the rear, so those lap times must be very close if they're maintaining that 4/10 gap, as it looks like Magic with the fastest lap. So never mind that, Magic is the fastest one on track. I can still see some spray coming from those tires. There's Aresi with the fastest lap, and I believe Aresi is on those softs as well, so it may be a switchover between the preferred tire from mediums to softs, as it looks like now IDVen is feeling the pressure from Magic, and it looks like Magic has been the closest he's ever been to IDVen he has in this Grand Prix. We are more than halfway through, lap 14 out of 27. The question is, has Magic taken notes from Bahrain, and does he know how to get by IDVen and not wait too long? He's been behind him for these last 14 laps, longer than he has in Bahrain with the race leader, Alberto, last week, but he got a terrible exit on that rumble strip. But again, the question is, when will Magic be able to get by IDVen? And I'm really surprised that he's not by him for the race lead yet.
Agreed. It is pretty surprising to see that Magic is struggling to pass him so much, even with the help of DRS. He's only been able to shape up one overtaking maneuver, really, which is a little bit surprising given how fast we saw he was in the intermediate conditions. And you would imagine in these kind of half and half conditions where it is essentially dry tyres on what is still a fairly damp track, that Magic would still be just as quick compared to Itaven. But it seems that the Haas driver has really pulled it together with these dry conditions. He was obviously on pole in a dry qualifying, so he's probably the fastest man on the track when it is absolutely bone dry. But it is a little bit surprising to see Magic on the softer compound of tyre as well not be able to make any sort of move so far in this race. He sets the fastest lap of the race again, but he's nowhere near close enough into turn 1. The lap times really are dropping. The track is only getting better as Aresi appears to be going much faster than all of these guys, as that's a bit of a questionable line through turn 1 from Magic. Let's go on board with Aresi. He's currently almost 7 seconds behind the leader as he goes for a bit of a drift through turn 1. It's not looking great for Aresi at the moment. He needs a minor miracle at this point to qualify for the semi-finals in London, and I don't think at this rate that is going to be anywhere near happening as it stands. So let's run you through the order quickly then. It is still currently Itaven in the lead from F1 Italian Magic, just behind him in second place. Nico Fiore in third, is being caught actually by Aresi in fourth. birillodog with his best performance of the championship by a mile so far in P5, with H Racing Green in a really impressive P6. You've got to say, the man who really struggled in Bahrain after having such an impressive result in China is really back on the front again today, and he's ahead of the championship leader Alberto currently, which is a big thing for him. Alberto has been so good in this series so far. Alex still for now is heading this 3-car train, or 4-car train even, for P8. He is really living on the edge. He has to finish top 8 if it stays like this for the lead to qualify for the semi-finals in London. He really has to try and hang on to that position as much as possible. Alex's fate is currently in the hands of Ollie D in P9. If he makes a move on Alex, it could be all over for the Ferrari driver. Marco Ganu rounds out the points, and the man who started this race in third, Big C, is currently down in P11. He is not going to be qualifying as it stands. He needs a miracle at this rate as well. So as we come into turn 1 on lap 16, it is still Itaven from F1 Italian Magic. The gap is still 0.3 of a second, and I think, Alan, this battle is going to go on right until the end of the race.
Obviously, these tires, I think most likely they'll be able to finish on these tires, but if anyone keeps noticing fastest laps every single lap, that means the track is obviously drying as Tim goes for the fastest lap. He did get past for the 12th position, by the way, so he's actually out of the points, and he gets a fastest lap, so I'm not sure if he pitted or not, but obviously, fastest laps every lap, it means the track is drying, which means that drivers are being able to go faster and faster and faster, lap after lap. As I can actually still see some spray on the circuit, obviously off the exits, some corners. I can see some water filling up on the screen, like a fantastic detail added by Cody's. Good job on that. But with 12 laps to go, Itiven is holding on to the race lead, and we keep on mentioning how much longer can he do it, because he does a magic all over his rear, because it seems to be every time as they cross the line, Itiven gets the fastest lap, and then a split second later, Magic goes for the fastest lap, and then it looks like Nico goes for the fastest lap, and it looks like they're all pulling together. The top 4 are, and then it's the Nico, and then Aresi. And then after that, and then you see some backmarker get the fastest lap because they may be on super softs. But as you come to the final last 11 laps, as they head through the chicane for the final time, Itiven does hold on to the lead. And it actually looks like Magic is a little farther back than he usually is. Fastest lap for Itiven, and I said that before it happened because I knew it was going to happen. And this time, Magic did not get it, so there must have been a mistake made as Nico goes for the fastest lap of 1:32.1. Question is, if can Aresi do it? I don't think he can. But it looks like Magic gained a lot of time back in turns 1 and 2, so Itiven must have actually had a little problem there as they go through the S-curve. But I'm going to look back further. I want to see if anyone else will go for the fastest lap. But I'm going to go back with Alex, who's still in the 8th. He's created a little bit of a buffer between him and Ali D, which is in 9th, and under pressure from Marco Ganu, who's in 10th. But I look back at Big C, still in 11th, and he's just hoping that Marco actually goes up for a pass against Ali D, because he needs as many points as possible. And even if he does, like, let's say get 8th, 9th, or 10th, most likely he will not advance to London. A little bit of a bummer for Big C, but like we mentioned, it was good while it lasted that he got that victory in Sakir, something that in Shanghai, and something that we'll never forget. A very fantastic race that we saw in China, again in Bahrain, and a fantastic race that we're seeing today. But with 11 laps to go, Magic is just maintaining that gap, which stands to be 4 tenths, and we keep on saying that. because I think these drivers are pretty equal on pace. They're putting the same times. He just needs a little bit of a let's say, a magical push to get by ID Ven. That's how close they are, and I think these fastest lap times will come down to within hundreds and thousands of a second of each other. I think that's how close it is, but we come to these final 10 laps to go in Suzuka. Question is, we keep bringing this up, can ID Ven hang on to the race lead?
That is, again, the big question here as Magic sets the fastest lap of the race so far. The DRS is really helping him out here, but he just cannot get close enough to make a move. He cannot get anywhere near close enough to that Haas car to make a move into turn 1. He is really struggling for straight line speed. We saw it in the wet, we saw it in the dry. Maybe that is a setup thing. Maybe he's running higher wings than Itaven, which could possibly explain his pace advantage that he had in the wet. It is a little bit crazy to see, though, how these guys are still so evenly matched despite the tyre compound difference. The tyres are tenths of a second apart over a lap, and they are still managing to pretty much match each other around one of the most technical laps on the Formula 1 circuit, as Magic runs a little bit wide out of Degner 2. That is not going to help his tyres. I think it might be a bit of a stretch for Magic to get his soft tyres to the end. They are definitely going to be feeling very, very second hand as we get into the latter stages of this Japanese Grand Prix. That is where Itaven is going to have a huge advantage, which is why I think it is crucial for Magic to find a way past while he still has the better tyres.
If anyone was curious, if you're not looking at the telemetry, the link should be on Twitter and in the chat. But if anyone was curious, the penalties stand as is. Nico with 3 seconds, Aresi with 9 seconds, Marco Ganu with 3 seconds, Big C with 3 seconds, Jemzoh and Flores both with 3 seconds, and Shellay in 14th with 6 seconds. So the front two do not have to worry about time penalties just yet. I think they both have each a warning respectively. But I'm looking on board now with Magic in second place. It looks like the gap has been increased yet again, almost to 6/10 across the line. It's actually been increased even more across the line as ID Ven. Another fastest lap. It looks like to be 9 laps to go. And this is what ID Ven wants to see. This will give him the opportunity to go down to win this race and go to London. But he also has to keep in mind, if let's say we have 1 or 2 more retirements, there could be a chance we could have a late race VSC or safety car, which can change everything. I'm not sure, most likely won't happen, but I'm on board with B-Dog, who is falling down the Sauber. He's into the pits, and it looks like from one set of Super Softs to another. As on lap number 19 out of 27, 9 laps to go, he'll go back on track with a new set of Super Soft tires. And I do believe this puts Big C back into the top. Actually, he's top 9 as he got by Ali D, now chasing down Marco Ganu. He also got that position as B-Dog went into the pits. So we do not have 9 laps to go. And again, I'm really surprised that we haven't seen much passing going on. And I'm actually, speaking of passing, third place Nico, he's feeling a little bit vulnerable against Aresi, has gained a lot of time against his Red Bull teammate, and I wouldn't say Red Bull teammate, I'd say Toro Rosso Red Bull branding teammates, I would say. But for third place, I'm really surprised that Aresi's gained a lot of time back, seeing that Nico keeps on going for fastest laps every single lap, and I don't usually see Aresi going for those fastest laps. So I'm quite surprised to see that Aresi has gained a lot of time on Nico for third.
It is a little bit surprising, seeing as they are both falling back considerably from the leader. Nico has dropped to almost 7 seconds behind Magic and Itaven. The gap between these two now is up to 7/10 of a second. So maybe Magic's tyres are starting to struggle a little bit, as he just proves me completely wrong. Goes and sets the fastest lap of the race and closes that gap back down to 5/10 of a second. But surely he's got to make this move sooner or later. Otherwise, his tyres are just going to go off, and he will have no opportunities later in this Grand Prix. We are really getting on into the latter stages of this Japanese Grand Prix now. You've got to imagine Magic is starting to run out of opportunities in this race. As you mentioned, Aresi is really now pretty close to the back of Nico Fiore for P3, and H Racing Green is up into P5 now. This guy deserves a lot of credit for this drive. Finished P4 in Shanghai, and I think he'll be very happy with a P5 today. And also, something else to note, due to people pitting, Alex is now up into P7 in this race. So he can breathe a little easier now in this race. He needs P8 or higher if it stays like this for the lead, and he will be going to London. You've got to remember, though, as it stands, Itaven and Magic will both be tied on 40 points come the end of the race if it stays like Itaven in first and Magic in second, and it will be decided by their pre-season time trial times, where Magic was faster by 0.029 of a second. That is how close it is, and that is what is at stake here. So I believe, as it stands, it would be Alberto, Alex and Magic going to London, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is how it stands at the moment, and something huge has just happened, Alan. The gap... Oh, Magic's pitted as well. He's coming to the pits. That is a huge call. Itaven surely is not pitting, and Magic has decided that the right call is to pit for a set of super soft tyres. That is huge.
I'm really surprised that happened, because I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised, because we do have 7 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, if anyone was curious, 21 out of 27, but you can tell the difference. Obviously, medium tires for IDVen, and originally it was for Magic soft tires, so probably within these next 3-4 laps, you could either see IDVen trying to stretch it, or you could just see him hitting for a set of super softs, maybe next lap, maybe just try and go for the undercut or overcut. Maybe looks like maybe not even seeing that, and he knows that if he stays out a little bit too much longer, he'll be a lot slower compared to Magic. So he's thinking in his mind he needs to pit this lap, and he could try and push as hard as possible as he's been trying to go to try and get the, obviously I wouldn't say the fastest lap, but fastest sector 1 and 2. So he could come into the pits and prevail right ahead of Magic as Jemzoh retires from the session, lap 21 out of 27. Will this bring on a safety car? I don't think it will. But 7 laps to go. If this does, this will reward IDVen. This will be huge for him. But heading down the straight, 7 laps to go, headed into 130R. Question is, when will IDVen pit? Knowing that Magic just pitted, he's on the medium tires now, maybe within these next 2 laps at most, but I cannot see him extending it anymore. Because obviously, if he stays out, there can be a lot of time lost. But is he? No, he's going to stay out of the pits. So 6 laps to go at the Japanese Grand Prix, the Suzuka International Circuit. 6 laps to go. IDVen remains in the lead. Second is going to be Nico. Third is going to be Aresi. Fourth is going to be Magic. So actually, he's still in the top 4. So he doesn't have much competition in front and behind him. But really, it just matters who else pits in front of him, as it looks like the top 3 have not pitted just yet, and which surprises me, because it looks like Nico and Aresi are both on soft tires. So I'm really surprised that Magic pitted. I'm not sure if there's something wrong, or if he had a penalty or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened with Magic. I'd love to know. But Magic is now in the super softs, and he's going for a late race charge. He may try and copy Fizzy from Bahrain like it happened last week. But again, 6 laps to go. Anything can still happen today.
But Magic was really got to get a move on. He has lost an entire pit stop to Itaven in the race lead, and he needs to get himself back up into 2nd place if he wants to be qualifying for the semi-finals. That means he has got to close what is over a 10-second gap between him and 2nd place. He has to overtake 2 cars or hope that these guys pit. I don't know whether they're going to pit yet. They've left it very, very late, which would indicate that they are probably going to be staying out in this race, as Aresi is now all over the back of Nico. Is Itaven going to pit, or is he going to stay out again? I would imagine at this point, on those medium tyres, he's probably going to be staying out until the end of the race. It really would be a bizarre strategy call for him to pit now. Let's see what he does. And unsurprisingly, he stays out another lap, and Itaven is still in the lead of this Grand Prix as we start lap 23 here in the grand finale of the F1 2017 Esports Series. Nico Fiore is going to cross the line in P2. The gap between him and the leader is now 7.8 seconds. Aresi has fallen back marginally as well, but he is still within DRS range. And Magic, is he closing fast enough? I don't think he is. That gap is only down to 19.5 seconds. He sets the fastest lap of the race so far, but I do not think that is going to be enough to catch either P3, P2, or even the leader by the end of this race.
And if anyone was watching the telemetry, you must see a huge train, and the conductor of this one is H-Racing Green back in 5th. The caboose is going to, believe it or not, Ali D in 10th place. So it looks like 5 cars within, I believe, 2 or 3 seconds of each other. None of them passing each other yet, but obviously you have Alex right all over Alberto, who are 1-2 in points. You have H-Racing Green in 5th. And again, I'd like to point out, starting 15th on the grid, it is incredible that he's still in 5th place, gained 10 spots. And after the setback that he had in the last 2 rounds, a lot of motivation that he has now that he's gained 10 spots in this Grand Prix. But we are headed to the final stages of this race. I'm really surprised as we head into the hairpin. I'm not sure. I don't think any of them will try and pass each other. I do see LED looking to the inside of Big C as he puts on a block for 9th place. Big C knowing he needs to get as many points as possible. It's not going to be likely for him to advance, but just in case, he's trying to keep as many cars behind him as possible as Magic runs very wide headed down the straight. You just saw Magic got the fastest lap last lap, and with that, I don't think he gained any time back, but it looks like with Nico and Aresi in the single file, they are staying out. Same with IDVen. So I think there's either a problem or a mistake that Magic had, which caused him to pit.
I think Magic has to get P2, otherwise he doesn't qualify. I think if he finishes any lower than P2 with Itoven winning the race, he is not going to qualify in the top 3, which is going to be a huge disappointment for him considering where he was running for the majority of this race. The gap between him and the leader is still 18.5 seconds, and the gap is still 10 seconds to third place. So in the remaining laps, he has to catch and pass 10 seconds on Aresi and Nico Fiore, which is a nigh on Actually, Aresi has penalties, doesn't he? Aresi has 9 seconds worth of penalties, I believe I heard you say. If you could just check up again on the number of penalties that Nico has. Oh, Aresi goes for a dive into the hairpin. Aresi goes down the inside of Nico. What a move that is. He forces the Red Bull off the track a little bit, but very opportunistic from Aresi as he moves up into P2 in this race. We've got to account for penalties here, but that is definitely going to help Aresi out here.
I cut you off, but Discord just kept cutting you off, but as we head to the final 3 laps of this Grand Prix, a fantastic maneuver by Aresi to take second place. Yes, we did say Aresi 9 seconds of penalties, Nico with 3. I'm not sure what the gap is behind them with Magic, but it may look like the Red Bull driver trying to go back to the outside. He may look to the inside, but Nico stays behind. But something I found curious, I'm not sure if you stated it yet, but let's say if Itoven wins and I believe it would be Magic in 4th. By the way, Magic does not have any penalty, but going to the inside defensive is Aresi. To the outside is going to be the Red Bull driver. He's going to go wheel to wheel in turn number 1. Nico goes right around the outside, back down to single file. He takes back the position that was rightfully his just a lap ago as they both run wide. But like we mentioned, if Magic finishes second, Itoven would win. Between the points would be 7 points. Now that would be the points that they gain from 25 to 18. That'd be a 7 points difference. Also, if you're looking at the points, Magic has 22, Itoven has 15. That is a difference of 7 points. And like you said, if it goes on to a tiebreaker, it'll go to, I believe, the pre-qualifier times that these drivers have set, and not actually by their best finish so far in this championship, which quite honestly surprises me. But obviously, it puts in every single effort towards this esports championship. Not during the races, it's also before you actually enter them. It puts in a lot of effort involved to get these drivers through and have the edge over time breakers, as we have 3, and it looks like Itoven has led every single lap today. I believe every single lap today. I'm not sure if Tim led that 1 lap in the Renault or H Racing Green as he stayed out a couple laps, but we're coming to 2 laps to go.
Oh, Aresi's in the wall! Aresi's retired! Sorry to interrupt you there, but Aresi has just blown up into the wall, and that could be crucial for Magic here. He's driven over all of that debris, but he's now up into P3. Another big challenge for Magic is he has to get within 3 seconds of Nico Fiore, and he will be going to London. He has 2 laps pretty much remaining of this Japanese Grand Prix. It is pushing to the absolute limit for the Williams driver. He has to get within 3 seconds of the Red Bull in front of him, who has a corner cutting penalty. The gap between Magic and the leader is 16.1 seconds. The gap to Nico is, I believe, 7 seconds. So Magic has 2 laps to gain 4 seconds. Is that possible? I think it's right on the edge of the realms of possibility here. But Nico currently still holding it in P2 for now, as it looks like Itoven, unless he makes any mistakes in the last few laps. Oh, that was a huge slide. It was so close to pinning that in the wall. That would have been a heart-in-mouth moment for the Haas driver. And it really is all kicking off here on the penultimate lap of this Japanese Grand Prix. We only have a lap and a half left of this F1 2017 Esports Series. Let us know your thoughts on this race so far and who you think is going to come out on top here using the hashtag F1 Esports on Twitter. This is getting very interesting here.
Sure, most likely he's not going to close in, but this is going to mean that Itoven will advance with 2, I would say 1.5 laps remaining as he's on the back straight now. For the second to last time as Nico's in second. This will be the barrier between Magic and him going to London. It's Nico in second place, who, believe it or not, if he finishes second, will not advance. So that does it for him. But as we head to the final lap, now Itoven crosses.
Huge contact into Spoon. Sorry to interrupt you there, but there was a huge dive from Marco Gano on the inside of Big C, and that nearly all went wrong for both of them. And Big C, having gone up into 7th place, is now back down into 9th. This midfield battle is getting very tasty, and it's all playing into the hands of Alex as he's still in P6 here, which is good enough for him to qualify in 2nd place. Alberto, I believe, will still have the lead of this championship with Alex in 2nd and Itoven getting 3rd place. And it really is all kicking off here on this final lap. It's going to be a nail-fighting finish. Who is going to take it?
Most likely it'll be Ven. Obviously, he has the lead. Second place is Nico, and it looks like that gap is nowhere close. It looks like Magic is gaining massively. I'm not sure if it'll be it towards the line, but Ven, he is sweating right now. I'm hoping he knows the circumstances of what he needs to do to go to London. If I were him, I wouldn't even know if I won the race to go to London, and that'd be the best point, because obviously you have a lot of pressure knowing that, oh, I have to finish out this very last lap, and if I crash, that's it. But obviously, as we head into the final sector now, headed down the straight, that'll be it. And it looks like, I don't think it'll be 3 seconds. We're looking back with Magic, and headed through the corner. That's around 6 seconds, so he's way off the pace. Ven is going to head into 130R, and what a way to go out on top. Ven is going to come through the chicane for the final time at this circuit, and he is going to cross the line. Hopefully he knows. He knows as he crosses the line now, Ven is going to win the Japanese Grand Prix. This clinches him, and it puts himself in the London final. Ven wins, and that is if Magic...
No, Magic's into second!
Wait, hold on a second. No, he's in a second. What happened with Nico? There must have been a problem. It looks like Magic's going to come through, and Magic advances to London. I can't believe it. Magic advances to London. The scenes that we've seen. Stick for Magic.
Incredible drama, the likes of which we will never ever see again. Magic has just booked his place in London at 130R on the final lap. We didn't actually catch what happened, but out of nowhere, Magic has just stolen it heartbreakingly from Ven, and it will be Magic going to London, not the race winner Ven, and that is huge drama right at the very last. I cannot quite believe what I've just seen. You've got to imagine that Nico either made a huge mistake or let him through, which would be a completely bizarre circumstance. Whatever happened, though, Ven, despite winning the Japanese Grand Prix, will not be going to London. It will be F1 Italian Magic in his place.
Just to see, it just reminds me of the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix. I feel so bad for Ven. This must be the worst victory he's ever gotten, but as they're on the podium now, most likely could have been, I wouldn't say team orders, but obviously letting him by, because that gap was 6 seconds, and he was going down a straight. I don't get how you could possibly mess up going down a straight. I mean, he did go through 130 on a chicane if he locked up, but other than that, I'm not exactly sure what happened. But with the time penalties as they stand, even if Magic was within 3 seconds behind of Nico, it would have been Magic still finishing in second, but that is it. Your winner is Ven. Second is Magic. Third is Nico. Fourth is H-Racing Green. Fifth is Alberto. Sixth is Alex. Seventh is Ali D. Eighth is Marco Ganu. Ninth is Big C. Rounding up the top 10 is B-Dog. And 11th is Tim. 12th is Aresi retiring within 2 laps to go. Shelly's in 13th. 14th is Jemzoh. 15th is Flores. 16th is J-Thorn. 17th is JustLoOller. And that will round out the grid. And for driver of the day, if you want to put the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag F1 Esports, I have to say H-Racing Green. He actually did gain another position due to Aresi retiring. He gained 11 spots in this Grand Prix and held up a feisty pack of 5 cars behind him to finish in 4th place. So well done to H-Racing Green to finish out strong in this championship. But congratulations to Magic, barely squeezing through on the very last lap to make it to London. Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. We're going to have to find out what happened there. Obviously, they both race in F1 Italian, so I'm not sure whether there was any sort of team orders or anything like that there, because the top 3 actually were all F1 Italian, so that would seem a little bit strange, because either way, there was going to be one of the F1 Italian drivers there. I don't want to make any accusations or anything, but that was quite something. And because we didn't catch what happened with Nico, because we were on board with the leaders, we don't know whether it was a mistake or he let him through. That was just such a bizarre ending to that race, and I believe we are going to try and get some driver interviews going here. It may be a little difficult due to the technical issues we've been having throughout this race, but hopefully we should have some driver interviews before the end of this race. And before we get into that, I'd like to give a few thank yous to everybody. This is obviously the final race of the F1 2017 Esports Qualifying Championship. A huge thank you to everybody at AOR, Dan Hawkins, Fizzy, and everybody else as well for organising this. This has been it's gone unbelievably well. So massive thank you to all of you guys, the drivers as well, for turning up week in, week out and putting on an amazing show. All of our fellow commentators, so Justin, King Kodiak, Ryan, Matt and Alan for joining me as well. They've all been absolutely amazing and made the live streams really, really great to watch. And our last thank you is to Codemasters and Formula 1 as well for giving AOR this huge opportunity, the likes of which the F1 gaming scene has never seen before. So a massive thank you to all of those guys for sorting us out with that. And from myself as well, personally, it has been a massive pleasure to commentate on this race. I'm sure it has been the same for you, Alan, as well.
It's a beautiful race. That was one of the most controversial finishes I've ever seen. But if any of the drivers are listening to the stream, we are ready for interviews. We got told before the race to try and get some interviews to finish this out, though nobody is in the ready for interview on Discord. So hopefully we can get some drivers in, because we haven't actually done interviews yet for these past 2 esports races, and I'd love to get that in before we finish this out. But fantastic race. And again, if you have any driver of the day's opinions or anything, go on Twitter, use a hashtag F1 Esports. This is going to be very important to obviously put in the vote for a driver of the day. It's not actually a vote, but metaphorically, I would like to say it is. But again, a huge congrats to H Racing Green, a fantastic finishing position, and Magic on getting into the final round on the very final lap in the very final sector, and I believe the very final corner. So it actually looks like H Racing Green is ready for interview. I'm not sure if you want to get him in here, so we'll drag him in here. A couple questions. Ready.
Right, so H Racing Green.
H Racing Green does join us in the commentary box. I'm not sure if his mic works, but is how were you able to do it and finish 4th today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, your mic is working now.
I think had a pretty good start, and a couple of people go off. Had really good Inter's pace, better than I expected to catch up with where the Renault is in the pit lane. Jumped 2 or 3 spots in the pit stop phase, and then just defended for my life for the rest of the race.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Ali?
So overall, are you happy with your performance in this series so far? Obviously 4th place in Shanghai and a 4th place today. Do you think you possibly could have qualified for London had things gone a little bit better for you, or do you think those were the maximum results you could have got this series?
I didn't expect to have 2 4th places at all. Had I done a little bit better, it hurts a little bit to know that if I'd done a little bit better in Bahrain, I might have been able to qualify. But to take away 2 4th places from a series against some of the best on F1 games is more than I could have asked for, really.
Thank you very much, H Racing Green. Again, a fantastic result to end out a fantastic championship. Put on a masterful drive today at the Suzuka International Circuit. I'm not sure if we have any more questions for you, but again, a fantastic drive. Well done. Really looking forward if we have next year's Esports Championship and hoping you're in it. And again, thank you so much. And again, for hosting, I believe you're hosting these lobbies, sending us the invites, obviously. Thank you for doing that. So take care. And again, we'd love to see you back in the Esports Championship. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
So that was H Racing Green, who finished in 4th today. Next, we're going to get Alex. Alex is in the ready for interview. He has his mic muted. I'm not exactly sure if he's actually ready for an interview. Probably just wants it to be muted. But I will point out this. We were sent the official driver standings. We'll go over this quickly before we get Alex in here. Alberto first with 50 points. Second is Alex with 44. Third is F1 Italian Magic with 40. 4th is ID Ven with 22. Oh, hold on. I'm not sure if I'm reading this right, but it says ID Ven is in 4th. 5th is Nico. 6th is Big C. 7th is H Racing Green. 8th is Ali. 9th is Jthorn. And 10th is Shellay. The screenshot I got sent, not all the points are added up correctly, so I'm not going to say the points out in total. But that is the top 3 who are going to make it, which will be Alberto, Alex, and Magic. So just got a message from Alex, and it looks like he's ready for the interview. So we will add him to the commentary box in just a second. So Alex, it wasn't the best day for you, but that doesn't matter. You advanced to the Esports Championship in London. Oh, what does that feel for you? Obviously, you advanced and you had a fantastic championship run throughout these 3 minimal races that we had. 3 races. How are you able to pull it off and finish second in this Esports Championship, Alex? Are you there, Alex?
Just a heads up, Alex, your mic is currently muted. I don't know whether you know that, but you're popping up in
Yeah.
Discord is currently muted.
Yeah, he told me he unmuted his mic. Do you know how to unmute your mic? It's a good question. If you go down to the bottom, there's 3 buttons. There's one with headphones, and there's a gear, and then all the way to the left, there is a microphone button. Click that, and you should be able to unmute your microphone. I don't think he knows how to turn on his microphone. So I don't see any other driver in the ready for interview. I mean, we'll wait a couple minutes for Alex, but now that we have this time, let's talk about the race. If you were able to rate this race on a scale from 1 to 10, I would have to rate this race a solid 6.5 out of 10. Obviously, it appeared to be that final lap added the 0.5 to it. There wasn't much going on, but obviously the battle for the lead was very intense. The very last lap was intense, and I'd have to give that race a solid 6.5 out of 10. What about you, Ollie?
I would go for fairly similar rating, maybe a 6.5, maybe a 7. It was pretty interesting. We always had tension with a fight for the lead, which was what we want to see in this race. As there was always drama going on, and then at the very last, we still don't actually know what happened between Nico and Magic at the very last corner. But whatever happened, it resulted in Magic being ahead, and that is what matters in the end. And you can see the championship standings on screen at the moment. The points are not correct, but the order is. So it is Alberto in the lead ahead of Alex and Magic. And those are the 3 who will be going to London from the PS4 F1 Esports Series. And I believe now we have Alex ready for interview.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Your mic is working.
Yeah,
So
it was just the wrong one plugged in.
okay, that's good to know. At least your mic works. So again, I'm hopefully gonna try and remember the question. So you had a phenomenal 3 races in this championship, which advanced you to the finals in London. How are you able to do it, having very consistent pace within these last 3 races? Obviously, not the best Grand Prix for you today, but it doesn't matter. You're going to London. How does it feel, and how are you able to do it?
Overall, my pace on this game is just like 2 steps above it was in F1 2016. I feel very good in the car. It's doing what I want, basically. And specifically for this race, Suzuka is the worst track for me, basically, on the whole game, because it requires aggressive driving, and my driving style is very smooth, very like pointy car and stuff. And I had a mistake in my qualifying lap, and then it was obviously inters, and I was struggling a whole lot. But I knew that if I finish ahead of Big C, P7 is what I need, and I just focused to get that P7, nothing more. And I knew, I think each event was winning, so as said, P7 was enough. In the pit stops, I had a little issue. The team wasn't letting me going out, so I lost 2 spots and I was in P9. And then luckily, I think Aresi crashed, birillodog went off, and it was so tense. Like I hoped H Racing Green would let me through, actually, but he was fighting with Alberto, and I was just trying to not crash into them. Just before the end, Marco Gano just dive bomb slapped into me, and I thought it's over, but I somehow kept it. And when I crossed the line, the relief went, and I just can't believe it that I did it. I can't describe it with words how happy I am.
Ali, do you have any questions?
So, having put in some really, really impressive performances so far, do you think you can go all the way from the semi-finals to potentially the finals in Abu Dhabi and maybe even win the whole thing, or are you just happy with whatever happens now that you've made it?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I could have never expected to make it. Like, in all the AOR seasons I competed, I was maybe 4th or 5th quickest driver. plus the F1 Italians, plus the Race Stars drivers. I never thought before the whole thing started I could advance. Especially with 2 races having rain in it, like especially. So I'm taking everything. I'm taking a free trip to London, and it depends. It depends. I mean, if I get someone from like the events who are not having this racecraft, everything can happen. But if I get Graham Carroll, Flying Finn, and Cupid, I'm done. So I'm taking it from where it comes. I just will enjoy the flight, enjoy London today extra to just explore the city. I'm Ukrainian, so I won't get a tourist visa. So that's the first thing I gotta take there, get a fucking visa. But yeah, I'm happy.
Thank you very much, Alex. 2 things I'd like to point out. One, hopefully when you're there, hopefully you can send us back some good photos and hopefully vlog from there, because obviously I'd love to go to London, and obviously the closest thing to that is seeing some footage of it. So hopefully you bring back some shots, and obviously huge congrats and good luck in the London finals, and hopefully you can advance to Abu Dhabi. It'll be really challenging, but knowing you, I think it won't be that hard for you. But thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth, and again, thank you for putting on a great race, and congrats on advancing to London.
Bye.
Yep, bye. As we will end that out. One other thing I'd like to point out, I was gonna let Ali say something, but we have gotten the correct Drivers' Championship standings with the actual points. So Alberto's on first with 50, second is Alex with 44, third is F1 Italian Magic with 40, fourth is ID Ven with 40 as well. Again, tiebreaker since he got the better time. Fifth is Nico with 31. Sixth is Big C with 29. He fell from 3rd to 6th in just this race. A little bit of a heartbreak for him, but he got his big win in Shanghai. But 7th is H Racing Green with 24. 8th is Ali D with 18. 9th is J Thorne with 9 points, so with his position. And in 10th place is Shellay with just 6 points. So this championship has really come down to the wire between the top 5, 6. And again, a phenomenal job all these drivers have done. Huge congrats again to Alberto, Alex, and Magic. And again, it's up on your screen for the points. So I just literally just said what's on your screen. So again, congrats everyone so much for tuning in today. Fantastic racing. Again, congrats to Alberto, Alex, and Magic. Again, fantastic final lap. What are your final thoughts to take away on this, Ali?
Well, as soon as we know exactly what happened on the final lap, we will let you all know through the glorious thing that is Twitter. But again, from me, thank you all very much for joining us for this last 3 weeks. It's been such an awesome experience to commentate. I hope you all enjoy watching the semi-finals in London. Good luck to Alberto and Magic, and especially Alex. You definitely got my support for the semi-finals. Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.